James Harden, the first player in NBA history to record two 50-point triple-doubles in a single season. Last night's game against the surprisingly hot 76ers, he did absolutely everything in his power to lead the Rockets to their 35th win of the season, as he recorded 51 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists while only taking 28 shots from the field, which inspired me to do this. I have never done a video like this before, but you know, talking about anything other than James Harden in today's NBA recap would have just felt wrong after he makes NBA history. And I didn't want to make a video about why he should win MVP or anything like that, because quite frankly, lots of people have already done that. But I didn't know what else to say about him, and that's really because I didn't know who he was. I know him as one of the best players in the NBA and as having one of the best beards mankind will ever see, but that was about it. So I decided to do a bit of research to find out how James Harden became the player that he is today. First, I just want to say that I used the E60 James Harden the Man Behind the Beard special by ESPN to find out a lot of these facts. I'll link that video in the description box below. So now before we get into the recaps from last night's games, here's a bit of insight into the beard. Some NBA players have nice upbringings, where gangs and financial struggles aren't a factor. Some others were gifted athletes from birth. But for James Harden, neither of these things applied. Actually, his birth in and of itself is nothing short of a miracle, as his mother claimed that before he was born, she had had several miscarriages in which prompted her to give him the nickname Lucky at birth. But just being born wasn't the only challenge James Harden would have to go on to face. Growing up in Compton, or as Harden calls it, the place where you're not supposed to make it out of, he was raised by a single mother who did not want to see the streets of Compton claim one of her own. So she always made sure to keep her kids involved in school and extracurricular activities. For James Harden, of course, that was basketball. There were no fancy gyms or even a park for James Harden to play basketball, and instead he would practice on the old rim that hung from his garage, sometimes till as late as 1:30 in the morning, just out there shooting and shooting, which was both good and bad. Now when his high school career began, James, like most NBA players, would of course play on the basketball team. But it's not like he was a star or anything like that. I mean, there were no magazines claiming him to be the next big thing, and colleges weren't even aware of his existence. And that's because James Harden was asthmatic and out of shape. Before this, when he was playing basketball, like I said, all he did was shoot for many and many hours. He wasn't lifting weights, and he wasn't doing any type of conditioning. All he did was shoot. And coming into high school, that's basically what he was, a catch and shoot player. However, that's not what he wanted to be. He knew he was going to be a star. So one day he left a note for his mom telling her to wake him up at 7 every day so he could get into shape and that he was going to be a star. Harden said that he didn't have a plan B. He didn't need one. He didn't know how or when, but he knew that he was going to be a star. After that, his high school career began to turn around as he led the Artesia High School to the back-to-back state championships and drew comparisons to star guard Manu Ginobili for his crafty footwork before being recruited by Arizona State, where in his freshman year he would go on to average 17.5 points per game, and in his sophomore year he would be named the Pac-10 Player of the Year. The lucky to be born, asthmatic, out of shape kid from Compton who had no plan B because he knew he was going to be a star, became a star. June 25th, 2009, with the third pick in the NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder made James Harden's dream come true, joining Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in what would become one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. Now, when James Harden was drafted, he thought he was going to be their starting shooting guard. So when he was informed that he'd be coming off the bench, he was kind of disappointed at first, but he humbled himself and accepted his role, being the sixth man and coming into the game and instantly providing offense for the Thunder. Of course, he was good enough to be a starter, but it was by his own will that he remained coming off the bench. At the start of the 2011-2012 NBA season, former Thunder head coach Scott Brooks asked James Harden if he wanted to start, and James Harden said no, that it was for the better of the team if they kept bringing him off the bench. And of course, that year he'd go on to become the second youngest player to ever win the Sixth Man of the Year award. James Harden was happy. I mean, what wasn't there to be happy about? He was off to a very successful start to his NBA career. The young trio of Harden, Westbrook, and Durant had just reached the NBA Finals for the first time and were determined to win a championship together one day. The only thing was that James Harden still hadn't been re-signed to a long-term contract yet. Only a couple of weeks before the 2012-2013 season began, Harden received a phone call from the Thunder management with a contract offer that was well below the max contract, and on top of that, they only gave him an hour to decide. Immediately, Harden's mind began racing. An hour simply wasn't enough time to make one of the biggest decisions of his life. However, before he even made a decision, he received a phone call from Sam Presti informing him that he had been traded to the Houston Rockets. Of course, Harden was heartbroken. I mean, he had a genuine relationship with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. They had grown together in the NBA, and their goal was to win a championship together. And all of that changed with a single phone call. Harden claims that to this day, he still wonders, what if? Going into his first season with the Rockets, Harden was uncertain. How do I lead an NBA team? Am I even good enough to lead an NBA team? Throughout his entire career so far, he had been the guy off the bench, a really good guy off the bench, but he had never had the task of actually leading an NBA team. Well, those thoughts and worries quickly faded away after his first 2 regular season performances. As in his first game with the Rockets, he dropped 37 points and 12 assists against my Pistons, of course, and then followed that up with a 45-point performance against the Hawks. There was no longer any question that he was more than capable of leading a team. He went on to average 25.9 points per game in his first full season as a starter. And the rest is pretty much history. He'd go on to finish second to Stephen Curry in MVP voting in the 2014-2015 NBA season, taking the Rockets to the Western Conference Finals. And fast forward to present day, he has 14 triple-doubles so far in the season, has become the first player in NBA history to have 2 50-point triple-doubles in a single season, and is one of, if not the front runner to win MVP while keeping the Rockets in the 3rd seed out west. And I just gotta say that after finding out a bit more about James Harden, I developed a whole new level of respect for him, and I hope you did too. But like I said, the link to the ESPN video will be in the description if you want to check it out. And if you're new to this channel, I do daily NBA recaps where I draw inspiration for a topic from the games that happened the night before, which account for about 50% of the video, and then the next half is me recapping the games to keep my subscribers up to date with what happened. I got a lot of people confused in my other videos as to why I randomly switched from talking about one thing to another, so I just thought I'd throw that in there. But now on to the recaps from last night's games. The inspiration for the first part. Well, the Houston Rockets needed every single ounce of pure greatness that James Harden had to give them last night to beat the feisty 76ers. Philly and Houston were pretty evenly matched going into halftime before Houston got a bit of breathing room in the 3rd quarter when they outscored Philly 33-21. Like I said though, the Sixers are an extremely feisty team. Joel Embiid went on an 8-0 run by himself, leading a Philly comeback that fell short. Rockets got the win 123-118, 51 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists for James Harden, and Joel Embiid returned after missing the last 2 games and tallied 32 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks in only 28 minutes. We all know what Damian Lillard does after getting snubbed from All-Star games. He goes off. This might not have been as impressive as the 51 performance he had last year against the Golden State Warriors, but it was still something special nonetheless. He led the Blazers to a 112-109 win over the Grizzlies, scoring 33 points, but 15 of those were in the 4th quarter alone. And to anyone thinks it's just a coincidence that Dame basically elevates his level of play after getting snubbed from All-Star games, it's not. He basically confirmed it. A reporter asked him after the game if he was subconsciously motivated by not making the All-Star team, in which he replied no, that he was consciously motivated by it. Also, Chandler Parsons, you gotta learn to stay in your lane. Before attempting to roast another team, you're probably focused on not trying to be complete garbage yourself. Things aren't too pretty in Chicago right now, as the team is basically divided up into multiple pieces. I'm sure you've all heard by now about Rondo's Instagram post basically calling Butler and Wade bad veterans and leaders, after Wade went to the media about the other guys not showing up for the team. And both Wade and Butler came off the bench last night, and things didn't go so well at all. Especially for Butler. Yo, I can't remember the last time he has ever played like that. In 33 minutes off the bench, he tallied a whopping 3 points. On 1 of 13 shooting from the field. And of course the Bulls will fall to the streaking Miami Heat 100-88. The Heat have now won 5 straight games. The Heat have won 5 straight games, and coming into this game, the Raptors had lost 5 straight games. That losing streak came to a much needed halt though, as the Raptors got the relatively easy win last night over the struggling young Bucks as of late. 102-86 was the final score. DeMar DeRozan still out with a sprained ankle, but Kyle Lowry had 32 points and 6 assists, and Norman Powell had another really good performance once again starting in place of DeRozan. 19 points and 6 rebounds for Powell. So a lot of media around the Cavs this week. LeBron apparently is frustrated with the direction the Cavs are headed and the ownership's unwillingness to spend more on payroll. But they got the win over the Brooklyn Nets last night. If they had lost last night, that would have been 3 straight losses to sub 500 teams. LeBron had 31 points and 11 assists and 5 rebounds, and Kyrie Irving had 28 points for the Cavs, who, like I said, got the win, but it wasn't very pretty. LeBron James may say they need a playmaker off the bench, and while I'm sure that will help, I'm also starting to think that the problem is their defense. Their fourth quarter performance against the Nets only adds more reason for me to believe this as well, as they gave up 43 points to the Nets in the fourth quarter. No Avery Bradley, no Goatford, no problem whatsoever for the Boston Celtics, as they steamrolled the Orlando Magic 128-98 in a game that was basically over at the half. Speaking of at the half, rookie forward Jaylen Brown had 20 points in the first half of last night's game. I'm sure Boston fans were thrilled to see some of that potential displayed on the court. Isaiah Thomas also keeps his 20-point streak going with 21 points and 8 assists for the Celtics. It's just a matter of time now. I mean, Carmelo doesn't seem happy anymore, Knicks fans aren't happy, management isn't happy, and neither are Hornets fans actually, after Carmelo Anthony hit a dagger to give the Knicks the 100-97 win over the Charlotte Hornets. Yep, Kemba Walker may have snatched Derrick Rose's dignity as a defender, but it was Carmelo who had the last laugh, even if it wasn't on the best shooting night for him whatsoever. 18 points on 8 of 26 shooting from the field for Carmelo. One of the hottest teams in the NBA right now is the Washington Wizards. They are on a 14-game home winning streak, and it's like the old saying goes, Mi casa es su casa. That was apparently the motto for the Atlanta Hawks last night, as they let the Wizards come in, not take off their shoes, kick their feet up on their couch last night, and roll them in their own home. 112-86 is the final score. 19 points, 9 assists for John Wall, and 21 points and 11 rebounds for Otto Porter Jr., as the Wizards are now 10-2 in their last 12 games. The Spurs were on a 5-game winning streak coming into last night's game against the Pelicans. The Pelicans have proven to be the Goliath Slayers as of late, as they have beat both the Spurs and the Cavaliers in the same week. 23 points and 11 assists for Jrue Holiday, and Anthony Davis tallied 16 points and 22 rebounds for the Pelicans. Kawhi Leonard did return, however, for the Spurs last night and chipped in 23 points. The Pacers, more specifically Paul George, was absolutely determined to win last night. The Pacers found themselves in a bit of a hole against the Kings in the fourth quarter, but a late rally, including a Paul George scoring the final 6 points in regulation to force overtime, allowed the Pacers to come up with a 115-111 win. Paul George finished his tremendous effort with 33 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, and DeMarcus Cousins had 26 points and 12 rebounds and 5 assists for the Kings. And that wraps up all the action from day 95 of the 2016-2017 NBA season. And now it's time for the player of the day. Yesterday, you guys selected Russell Westbrook and his 45 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists as your player of the day, and now here are today's nominees. The going to be winner, James Harden, is 51 points, 13 rebounds, and 13 assists. I'm gonna be honest here. It would be kind of disrespectful to even have anyone else considered after a performance like that. So instead of player of the day, I simply made a post asking for the player that you guys respect the most. To see my player and reason, go check out the post on the Amino Hardwood NBA app. The link to the poll will be in the description box. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like on it if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more daily NBA videos. And until tomorrow, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!